Hello, everyone. Sorry it took me a minute. I'm an online instructor, and so I haven't been to campus or actually used the campus computer in a really, really long time. But I am on the computer all the time, just in my house. Thank you for being here today. I'm going to share with you a project design approach. And it's called From Theory to Practice, Transforming Educational Psychology into Real-World Applied Projects Using Student Interest Pathways. Okay, so let me start with the problem. Students take educational psychology for many different reasons, and not all of them are psych majors. There's teaching majors, there's social work majors. There's quite a few different majors that take educational psychology. So while some do come into the class with genuine interest, many are not really sure, kind of unsure about how they're going to use our class information into their actual careers, into their field that they're going into. So the question became, how do we make theory feel relevant for all students across vastly different career paths? So as someone that's been trained in psychology, I have a master's in psychology from Tarleton. Graduated 2 years ago. So, anyways, as someone trained in psychology, I know that this information can be widely used. So the problem really is a translation of to relevance. What way does this information, how is it going to resonate with the student? So that is the real challenge. When I began exploring this issue, I found that it's not unique to psychology, as y'all can understand. For example, I found research in chemistry that used ChatGPT and prompts to allow students to explore the content on their own. Also, another article that I found from Heidi and Reniger, it says that the personal interest can be a huge creative driver of learning. So really that insight was my turning point. Around the same time, I began experimenting with ChatGPT like everybody else. I love it. It makes me super excited about what are the possibilities. It's just endless, really, when you get down to it. So I decided to approach this semester and these assignments a little differently, to use AI not as a tool, but really as a true collaboration partner. So I started with a simple question. Well, how do we help students see that psychological theory is not abstract, but it's actively shaping the knowledge of their future profession? And what I found was that this is possible, that you can do this by leveraging AI as a brainstorming and design partner. So I created the assignments built around student interest pathways. So that allows students to engage with course concept in ways that feel personally meaningful and professionally relevant. And that's what I'll be sharing with you guys today, is not just the idea, but the process, the actual structure, and how you can adapt your ideas, your content to your courses. By the end of the session, you'll have a framework for designing flexible, interest-based projects that connect theory to real-world application across different student goals. This is not working right, but that's okay. Okay, so in this presentation, I'm going to talk about how artificial intelligence can connect you with your theory, well, I was trying to say psychological theory, but theory for whatever your area is, into can connect them to student interest pathways. Okay. And this is the steps that we're going to do it. This is the steps that I took to create these assignments. You're going to collect SIP information. We'll go through that. That's what I call the student information pathways. Organize the SIP information. You're going to use AI to help you brainstorm and connect theory to practice. You'll take those ideas and you're going to select and edit them yourself. That's where your expertise comes in, right? And then you'll compile and complete this assignment. Okay, all those are supposed to be able to click on, but that's all right. We'll just move on. Okay, so collection with student information. Just ask. The way that I collected my information is simply ask them to create a video the first day and ask them what their interests were, what their future goals were, why they took this course, and what areas they were interested in. You can get this information anyway. You can do it conversationally with surveys, polling. I've also seen people using online whiteboards. Any way that you can collect information, just collect this. I'm an experimental research, and so for me, all of these are data points, right? That's how I see all of these are data points. So I got grouped together all of my data points. And I started with the list, right? You just start with the list. So I went and watched all the videos and I listed all the things they're interested, right? And so when you, let's see, that's not going to click either. Okay, that's fine. So that was a list of all the professions that they wanted to get into, all the areas that they wanted to get into. There was ministry, there was, of course, teaching, different kinds of teaching, early childhood, interventionist, child psychologist, coaches. There were a lot of coaches and that sort of stuff, right? So there was a long list of about 50 different jobs, speech pathology, all kinds of jobs. So when you just look at the list, it seems like a lot of information. But here's where AI helps you, is really good at understanding lots of information really quickly, right? And so I just put that list into AI and I asked, could you group these areas of interest? Easy. And it said, yeah, no problem. Let me group them. And then this actually was supposed to show you how it grouped it. But it grouped all of them by interest groups, like all of the teachers were in group, and explained what made all of them the same and would put all of them in the same category. I ended up with this class with 8 different categories, so 8 different interest groups. So really, in this step, it's good to think about the number of groups you actually create. This was my problem in one of my classes. I created too many groups. And all of you guys know that just exponentially, it just makes your project a lot larger and take a lot longer. So really think about the numbers of groups. Oh, this was the actual groupings. Very nice, right? And so it just made things look a lot easier. And these were all of the responses. I mean, do you want to group all those together? I don't. So let's see if, ChatGPT will. Okay, so the next step is the brainstorming. So I took that group, or they already have the group in ChatGPT, and I asked, for this group, can you come up with practical real-world scenarios in which these areas of interest, these areas, would apply these theories? So how in the real world would they use this actual information when they go forth and do what they're going to do? And so I limited it to about 20 each group. Of course, to me, it's good to give ChatGPT a number because it can either go under what you want or over. It can create too much or too little. So I tell it what I want. Then I take those real world applications where they would use that information. Where would a coach use motivation, right? Of course they're going to use motivation. I know that, but how exactly can we show them in this project? So then out of those real world scenarios, I asked them to create project ideas from these real world examples. And I did 20 each group. If they don't give you enough information per each group or for different projects, you can ask for it to go more in deep, in depth, in detail on different areas. Say, I want you to explain a little bit more how they'll practically use this or something. If you need that, it'll go further in detail. It goes extremely detailed very quickly. So that's one revision you can make. So this is where expertise comes in, right? There's select and edit project options. So with ChatGPT, any AI, I heard the best tip, read everything, right? It's good. It uses lots of information. It's quick. It's wonderful, but it's wrong a lot of times. And so this is where you look at those options and go through those options. I picked between 5 and 10 different ideas for each group, but of course, here's the numbers game again. Make sure you don't pick too many because you'll get stuck, right? So go over those options and see what you really think could work for your students. What actually could they do? Is there something that the university, could help them do with something else they're doing? If they're doing student teaching, with education, how can they use that observance, maybe to help them with this? How can we get them to use the information to what they want to do, right? How can we get their interest? So really, you revise the projects as needed. And then you compile everything. So you gather, compile, and complete your project. This is how I like to put together my projects. The instructions. What I wanted to do for this certain project was I wanted them to create an artifact, like a poster, a brochure, teaching plan, something that somebody else could take and use, right? I wanted them to write a justification paper over what resources they use to research for that artifact. And since we're on online class, I asked them to give a video explanation, a quick for the class of what they researched, what they did, and the explanation of their project. And it's really come out really successful. A lot of students have really, really liked this. So I do the instructions. I did the groupings of the projects. Rubric, I always love the rubric, right? Common mistakes to avoid. This is the beauty of ChatGPT as well. You can put in your information, your paper that you're going to give your students and say, what am I missing? Or what are the questions here? What, is going to happen in this, what other information I tell my students. So I create a common mistakes to avoid for online. It's so good. It's so good. It slows down the email so much. And frequently asked questions. So they have, a way of getting some questions answered that I might not have thought about or gone over. So then that's it. You're ready to post. So as we come back to where we started, the challenge of making theory meaningful for all students is really, what I was looking at for these assignments. And what I ultimately really realized is this. The issue is never the content. The issue was, and the challenge was the translation of the content. Translation across interest, across goals, and across identities. So really what changed in this for me was a mind shift from thinking, how do I teach this material, to how does this material live in my students' future? By designing products through student interest pathways, we're not just helping students understand theory, we're helping them see themselves in it. And when students see themselves in the content, engagement increases, motivation deepens, and learning becomes more than something that's just a requirement for class. It becomes something that's more personal. Now that I use ChatGPT as a tool to help scale these ideas, the real shift here really isn't the technology. It's really the mindset. of students don't necessarily need more information. They've got a lot of information. Just how do we make it more meaningful and how do we create that connection, right? So if there's one thing I hope you take away today, you don't have to redesign your entire course. You just have to start asking the right questions. Questions that connect your content to who your students are today and who they're going to be tomorrow. Because when we do that, something very powerful happens. Theory becomes practice, practice becomes identity, and identity strengthens learning. So I'll say that again. Theory becomes practice, practice does become identity, and identity strengthens that learning. And when that happens, we're no longer just teaching concepts. We're helping students build a bridge between what they're learning and who they're becoming. Thank you. All right. Y'all have any questions? Any concerns? Any comments? All right.
Do you have information on?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
You already can go ahead.
So are you planning on implementing this into other classes as well?
Yes, I actually have, since it was so successful in my educational psychology class, I've also used it in my child and human lifespan development classes. And they like it as well. So we'll see. Yeah, well, that right now, I mean, everything that I'm getting back is pretty positive. So we'll see how it goes forward. I have seen other studies that it's like up to 80% of student improvement and motivation when they use this sort of stuff through interest pathways through ChatGPT.
Where, or do you have numbers, or where are you seeing in terms of learning outcomes using this versus what you've done prior?
I think we'll see. The midterm exams were really good. They turned that in before they did the midterm exams, and then I don't know. We'll see. Right now, the scores, I'm kind of nervous because they're too good. I'm nervous Dr. Bashar is going to say, hey, what do you do in this class? Because you're not smart enough. But I've really been seeing them ask really interesting questions. Say, hey, teacher, do you think this could work? How do I use this and, connect it to that? It's just a different way of thinking, kind of, how, well, I think once they get it in their brain that they're actually going to need to use this information someday. And that was kind of my point. This is information you need to know. They really have started thinking a different way. And that's what I really like. The questions aren't just basic. They're more using critical thinking.
So this semester is the first time you use this, okay?
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see like if your course evaluations and stuff will come back a little bit more.
We'll see. I mean, they might say I hate you. But you never know. But it's definitely an experiment. So I don't know, we'll see how it goes.
Now, Allison, what I'm going to say is that you are engaged and you're doing things with the students, and if they leave taking a skill that's like practical application, I'm going to say.
Well, and now being out of school for a while, I see it on the other side, that I do need to know this information. I really wish I'd paid attention more in that class. Right? So how do we get students just to absorb by osmosis, or, how do we get them to absorb that information? So that's my idea. All right. Thank you, guys.